Asterisk setting. A cramped, fluorescent-lit precinct interrogation room. Midnight. Asterisk. The flickering light above the interrogation table cast jagged shadows over Marcus Green's face as he slumped into a plastic chair. His suit jacket, once navy blue, now faded to a dingy gray, hung loosely on his frame, the elbows worn thin from decades of leaning across courtroom tables. He'd lost track of how many clients he'd met in rooms like this. 97 active cases, the department kept reminding him. 97 lives, depending on his exhaustion. Across the table, Terrell Washington shifted in his seat, the handcuffs chaining him to the bolted-down chair clinking like a morbid wind chime. The boy, no, man, Marcus corrected himself, though Terrell couldn't be older than 22, had the taut posture of someone raised to show hands at all times. His faded Black Lives Matter wristband peeked out from under the cuff of his oversized hoodie. "You're my lawyer." Terrell's voice wavered between hope and suspicion. Marcus didn't look up from the arrest report. Public defender. Same thing. The words tasted bitter. He knew what came next. The pleas, the protests of innocence, the desperate bargaining. He'd stopped hearing them around case number 53. "They said I had drugs." Terrell leaned forward, the chain rattling. "But I swear." 3 baggies of cocaine," Marcus interrupted, tapping the officer's bodycam stills. The grainy photos showed a jacket pocket, a gloved hand retrieving a Ziploc. "Found during a stop and frisk. Solid probable cause." Terrell's breath hitched. "That's not my jacket. I borrowed it from my cousin Jamal after the rain." Marcus held up a hand. His gold wedding band caught the light, the engraving worn smooth. "Sarah, 1998. Save it for the DA. They're offering 18 months. The room went still. Somewhere down the hall, a printer whirred to life. 18 months. Terrell's voice cracked. "For something I didn't. With your record? I jumped a turnstile when I was 17. Marcus finally met his eyes. The kid had that look, the furious hope of the newly incarcerated. He'd seen it fade in 100 faces. To the system, you're a repeat offender. Take the deal. Terrell's fists clenched. What about testing the drugs? If it's really coke, lab takes 6 months. The plea expires Friday. So fight for more time. Marcus stood abruptly, his chair screeching. A framed photo on the wall, a ribbon-cutting ceremony for the new jail wing, trembled. You think I'm your savior? I've got 3 rape cases, a double homicide, and a dementia patient who thinks it's 1962. You want miracles? Hire a priest. The guard outside rapped on the glass. Wrap it up, counselor. As Marcus gathered his files, Terrell's voice followed him to the door, soft, desperate. My daughter's first birthday is next month. Marcus paused. For a heartbeat. Sarah's face flashed in his mind, their daughter blowing out candles on a Sesame Street cake. Then he shoved it down. Happy birthday to her, he said, and closed the door. Asterisk setting. Marcus's cluttered office, stacks of case files teetering on every surface. Dawn light seeps through dusty blinds. Asterisk. Marcus squinted at his computer screen, the cursor blinking mockingly on the motion deadline calendar. State v. Washington, lab request due today. He'd meant to file it. Truly. But then the call came in. A 14-year-old client had attempted suicide in juvie, and the day dissolved into ER paperwork and frantic calls to overworked social workers. He reached for the stale coffee on his desk, grimacing at the sludge at the bottom. The photo of his daughter grinned up at him from its cracked frame, her gap-toothed smile taken the summer before the divorce. Sarah had gotten full custody. You're married to the job anyway, she'd said. A knock. Carmen, the office intern, hovered in the doorway with a post-it. Your 2 p.m. no-showed. And, she eyed the mountain of files. The DA left a voicemail. They're upgrading Washington to trafficking. Marcus's pen froze. On what grounds? Found more drugs. In his cousin's jacket. She air-quoted. Jamal something. The name punched through the fog. Terrell said he borrowed the jacket from Jamal. Marcus glanced at the clock. 4:37 p.m. Lab request deadline. 5 o'clock. File an extension, he barked, already reaching for his car keys. Carmen hesitated. The system's down. Has been since lunch. He stared at the motion draft on his screen, half finished, unsaved. The cursor blinked. Lab request denied due to incomplete. His phone rang. The homicide client's mother, screaming in Spanish. Marcus deleted the draft. The bodega owner's words haunted him. Asterisk, sorry kid, camera only holds 30 days. Asterisk, his alibi was rotting in a digital landfill. Mail call! The guard slid a battered law book under the bars. Criminal procedure for dummies, requested 3 weeks ago. Half the pages were missing, but Terrell clung to the dog-eared chapter on Brady violations. Yo T! His cellmate Dion nodded at the book. You gonna sue they ass? Maybe. Terrell's finger trembled as he underlined a passage. Failure to test evidence equals grounds for appeal. A crumpled napkin landed at his feet. Ask about the baking soda, Fletcher. 2 cells down, the old-timer mimed snorting powder, then winked. Terrell's pulse raced. The drugs had felt gritty, not slick like real coke. Could they really be? He began drafting a motion on toilet paper, the pencil nub breaking twice. Rebecca's eyes burned as she scrolled through the digital evidence log. State v. Washington had been flagged by the Innocence Project's new algorithm, a pet project she'd coded during sleepless nights. The system pinged cases with missing lab reports, but this one was different. Holy shit, she whispered. Her professor's voice echoed from their last meeting. Asterisk, focus on winnable cases, Rebecca. Not lost causes. Asterisk, but the timestamp hooked her. Marcus Green had written that note before the plea deadline. He'd known. She cross-referenced the arresting officer's history. Asterisk, Officer Dukes, 14 drug arrests, 8 dismissed due to lost evidence. Asterisk, all black defendants. Rebecca's fingers flew across the keyboard. A FOIA request to the lab. A subpoena draft. A map of every bodega near Terrell's arrest location. One of them had to have cameras. Terrell pressed his palm to the plexiglass, staring at the petite woman in the oversized blazer. Rebecca's energy crackled through the phone receiver. The lab finally tested the drugs, she said. His heart stopped. And it's baking soda. The words hung in the air. Terrell's vision blurred. 11 months of screaming into voided phones, of guards losing his grievances, of Marcus Green's dismissive sighs, all collapsed into this moment. Rebecca leaned closer. But the DA buried the report. We need you to testify that your lawyer ignored it. Terrell's throat tightened. They'll retaliate. My daughter is why you have to fight. She slid a photo under the glass. A toddler with Terrell's eyes, frosting smeared on her cheeks. 1 SD birthday scrawled in crayon. Your cousin Jamal sent this. He's been raising her. Terrell's tears hit the stainless steel table. The disbarment notice trembled in Marcus's hands. Asterisk, gross negligence. Ethical violations. Harm caused to client. Asterisk. Sarah's face flashed in his mind. Not his daughter, but his ex-wife, standing in the same office years ago. Asterisk, you used to care. When did you stop? Asterisk. A knock. Rebecca Cho stood in the doorway, her gaze sharp enough to cut glass. I'm giving you a choice, she said. Testify against the DA's office for evidence suppression, or become the villain of his story. Marcus stared at the notice. The phone rang. Another client, another crisis. He let it go to voicemail. The bailiff's voice boomed. Asterisk, all rise for the Honorable Judge Evelyn Mendoza. Asterisk. Terrell's ankle monitor felt like a live wire as he shuffled to the defense table. Rebecca stood beside him, her blazer swapped for a sharp pantsuit. Across the aisle, Marcus Green sat with the prosecution, his once rumpled suit now crisp, his face a mask of resignation. Judge Mendoza, peering over bifocals, this hearing is to review evidence of prosecutorial misconduct in State v. Washington. Proceed, Miss Cho. Rebecca clicked a remote. The projector hummed to life, casting Marcus's handwritten note onto the wall. Client claims substance is baking soda. Too busy to verify. Rebecca, Mr. Green knew the drugs were likely fake. Yet he coerced Mr. Washington into pleading guilty to a non-existent crime. Marcus stared at his hands. The wedding band was gone, leaving a pale stripe on his finger. Prosecutor. Objection. Mr. Green's workload. Judge Mendoza, slamming gavel. Overruled. Continue. Rebecca signaled to the bailiff. The doors swung open, and Jamal Washington entered, clutching a toddler with cornrows tied with pink ribbons. Terrell's breath caught. Asterisk his daughter's hair was long enough to braid now star. Rebecca, Your Honor, the real jacket owner is here. Jamal, describe what happened the night of the arrest. Jamal's voice shook. Terrell borrowed my coat, 'cause it was rainin'. I swear there was nothin' in them pockets but cough drops and a Metro card. The prosecutor smirked. And where were you that night? Jamal glaring. Workin' a double at the bodega. Check the cameras. Rebecca slid a USB drive to the clerk. Which brings us to Exhibit B. The footage played, Jamal mopping floors at 8:03 p.m., the timestamp glowing red. Terrell, in Jamal's jacket, buying diapers at 8:27. Officer Dukes' patrol car circling the block at 8:45. Rebecca, the drugs, were planted after the arrest. And Officer Dukes has done this before. The screen split, 8 mugshots of black men, all arrested by Dukes for drugs that later vanished. Judge Mendoza cold. Officer Dukes, approach the bench. The officer hesitated, his badge catching the light. Judge Mendoza, you're under arrest for evidence tampering. Bailiff, remove his badge. The courtroom erupted. Reporters surged forward as Dukes shouted, I was just following orders. Terrell's ankle monitor vibrated, a low, final buzz. The bailiff knelt to unclasp it. Rebecca whispered, you're free. The park sprawled under a late autumn sun, its golden light filtering through the skeletal branches of maple trees. Terrell leaned against the swing set, watching his daughter soar into the air, her laughter ringing like wind chimes. Her pink ribbons, frayed now, but still bright, fluttered behind her, trailing the innocence he had fought to reclaim. The chains of the swing groaned with each arc, a sound that had replaced the clatter of jailhouse keys in his nightmares. Across the field, a figure lingered at the edge of the playground. Marcus Green stood motionless, his shadow stretching long and thin over the leaf-strewn path. His trench coat hung loosely, its collar turned up against a wind that carried the first bite of winter. His hands clutched a manila envelope, its corners crumpled from months tucked under car seats or buried in drawers. The weight of it seemed to bow his shoulders, a stark contrast to the man who once filled courtrooms with brusque confidence. Terrell's chest tightened as their eyes met. The instinct to shield his daughter flared, a reflex carved into him by months of prison-yard glances. But the man approaching was no threat. Marcus moved slowly, his steps hesitant, as though the gravel beneath his feet might dissolve with every stride. When he stopped at arm's length, he extended the envelope without a word. The sunlight caught the edge of a paper inside, revealing the stark letterhead of the State Bar Association. Terrell took it, his fingers brushing the raised seal. Inside were photographs of shredded lab requests, their edges curled like dead leaves, and a memo stamped confidential detailing the DA's office's quid pro quo with Officer Dukes. A Polaroid slipped free, Terrell's mugshot, his eyes hollow and defiant, paperclipped to Marcus's handwritten note. No viable defense. Marcus turned to leave, but Terrell reached into his coat pocket. A business card, crisp and unmarked, glinted in the light. He pressed it into Marcus's palm, the embossed letters of Jamal's corner market catching the sun. Marcus stared at it, his throat working silently. The card trembled in his grip, a fragile bridge between the man he had been and the man he might yet become. The wind shifted, carrying the scent of burnt sugar from a distant vendor. Terrell's daughter leapt from the swing, her tiny sneakers kicking up a spray of copper leaves. She sprinted toward the slide, her joy untethered, her world unburdened by the weight of the envelope in her father's hands. Marcus pocketed the card and walked away, his silhouette dissolving into the amber haze of a setting sun. Terrell watched him go, the papers rustling in his grip. Forgiveness, he thought, was not a storm but a season, slow, inevitable, changing the landscape grain by grain. He knelt to gather his daughter, her small hands sticky from candy apples. As they walked home, the streetlights flickered on one by one, their glow softening the edges of the dusk. Somewhere in the city, a neon sign buzzed to life. Asterisk Jamal's Corner Market asterisk, its letters blazing red against the twilight. Inside, a man in a frayed trench coat stocked shelves, his hands